All right. Well, hello. Um, okay. So, uh, let's do another video. I'm kind of just looking at my Bitcoin chart here. Um, now, I don't know if anybody will agree with me or disagree with me, but I personally think, or I speculate, I like to speculate, that I think that we've got kind of a psychological level here around 90,000 and also around 110,000. Which have we? No, I guess we haven't hit 110, have we? But I think that my kind of suspicion is that because 100,000 is sort of talked about as a big psychological level for Bitcoin and other things, but I think that or I suspect that, especially looking at where Bitcoin has kind of ended up after this big pump following the election, it seems like we're sort of in shop right around 100,000, which kind of makes sense. Again, 100,000 being a, a a level that people have talked about and that anticipated and gotten real excited about um, for a while now. And so I have kind of a sneaking suspicion that we may end up sort of ranging sort of between 90,000 and 110,000 here for a little bit. I could be wrong, but we can kind of wait and see. I don't know. I'm a little surprised that Bitcoin hasn't swung back up yet now, but then again, you never really know. There are some sort of interesting areas that could potentially be returned to, and we may see more of a downwards trend than I was hoping for. I certainly had a short going for a little while there, in addition to my long that I closed out, thinking that Bitcoin here might pump back up. And then instead it went down. I could have just held that short and made a little cash, but oh well, it's all right. Um, let's see. So what were we doing videos about before? We were talking about my grid trading stuff. Okay, so we might as well do an update on this, I guess. Although I suspect it's going to be kind of me saying the same sort of stuff. We got our ApeCoin bot doing quite well. This this bot now, remember, uh, is a higher leverage bot, and so it will actually make a significant return from its grid trading, and so it's really significant that this is in the green zone for this bot because it means that I'm making money off of the action of the bot. Uh, and so I'm pretty happy about where this is currently in its price action right now. It's possible, with this having been going pretty far down after its peak up here at ApeCoin of about $2.16 per ApeCoin, that it might start to bump again and it might swing out of its grid. ApeCoin being oh gosh, I'm trying to remember. Is ApeCoin an AI or is it a gaming token? Let's see. ApeCoin. Um, support the evolution of art, gaming, entertainment, digital and physical events, and everything else. The web. Yeah. Okay. That's right. So it's more of a gaming token, and I think, based on the chatter that I'm hearing, and also just sort of some of the possibilities, like given what a ridiculous amount of money and commerce and activity there has been over the last couple of decades around the video game industry, which is now the video game industry has grown to be just gargantuan compared to what it was like when I was young in the 1990s. The video game industry is now much bigger than the movie industry, than the television industry, than the music industry is all of these things put together. So there's a tremendous amount of capital in there that and commerce that could be, if we can manage to successfully integrate that into the crypto sort of market and sphere. could mean a tremendous windfall for the cryptocurrency community and also for the gaming community. Honestly, we when I was young, we were playing Ultima Online and later WoW and stuff, and people would talk about like, gosh, it would be so interesting to make a living playing these video games and to just sell your in-game currency for actual real-world money. And that was a thing that you could theoretically do, and people certainly were actually selling in-game currency in WoW and other online communities, going back quite a long time. But the concept of having video games where the in-game currency in the video game is an actual currency that has actual real-world dollars, just like actual currencies do on the foreign exchange and also in cryptocurrency. It could be kind of a revolutionary concept. So I kind of have a sneaking suspicion that ApeCoin, being one of these big cap, blue chip, relatively blue chip coins, that's likely going to be involved in some of that if and when it does happen, may turn out to be a rather good investment prospect. But it probably won't be for a little while before that happens. The general narrative that I've been hearing from influencers and from the sort of chatter is that we're more likely to see boomer coins, these just sort of Dogecoin, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, um, ADA, DOT, Uni, Uniswap, and all the other things. We're more likely to see those have kind of a heyday following Bitcoin, followed by AI coins, or maybe concurrently with AI coins, and then likely the gaming boom will probably come after that. So keep with that in mind. It is actually this is one of the reasons why I like this bot and why I sort of harp on it as being. I'm very happy that this thing survived and is able to trade in this range because ApeCoin may turn out later to be a really good long for me, but in the meantime it may just kind of sit in this range and not really get a whole lot of attention and just trade back and forth, which is in to my advantage I'm doing this type of leveraged grid trading. It's better for the price to sit and trade within a range than it is for it to pump or dump in a really big way if you're doing this kind of trading, because I'm more actively making money when it's in this green zone. Whereas if it gets above the green zone, that's wonderful. It's a long position in profit, but it's not going to make money by the action of the price moving up and down, which is what grid trading is. Um, so yeah. But anyway, this guy's doing totally fine. We had a couple others that I was a little more concerned about, and I'm still concerned about them. But we'll just have to kind of see how they go. So sometimes with these things, you just sort of have to ride them out, and either they work out or they don't. As this gets further down and gets closer to its liquidation value, I could close the bot, and I think it's in maybe 60% loss right now or something like that, and I'd get a little bit of money out of it. But the trouble with doing that is that I would have lost maybe 60% of the money that I put into it, and if I can hold it, and if it doesn't happen to get down below this liquidation level, it may swing. It may very well, in fact, swing back up to where it was. In fact, I suspect that it. I believe that it will. It's more a matter of whether or not it falls down and gets liquidated before it comes back up. Is more my concern. Um, but if it does successfully recover in price and kind of get closer up to where it was ranging before, then I will have maintained the margin that I started this bought off with. So I would be giving up. I would be able to sort of salvage maybe 40% of what I put into this bot, but I'd also be losing 60%, and it'd be a guaranteed loss of 60%. Whereas if I hang on to it and it happens to not dip down too far, then this would recover, and then I'd still have the money that I put into the bot and potentially more. So on some level with these things, it can be really nerve wracking watching them, but you sort of have to kind of you have to stake what you think is going to happen and what you think a reasonable liquidation or a reasonable closing level is, and sometimes you just got to let it play out. And sometimes it doesn't work out. Sometimes some of these bots will get liquidated. You have to go into these things with the mindset that you know you're going to lose some money sometimes. Because if you get too upset and try to make every single trade work out your way, or try to make every single bot work, and it's just the end of the world if one of them gets liquidated, or if you hit stop loss, then you're just going to be an emotional wreck the whole time. So um, anyway, so this, as I said, as I've said in previous videos, I think that this will probably come back up. We're getting pretty far down on our Heikin-Ashi indicator here, and our oscillator also is signaling bullish movement, or potentially bullish movement coming up. The last time we looked at this, we had some of these green pluses lit up, but then they had gone back to black. It looks like they've lit back up again. So that, at least the way that this indicator is usually read, is a good sign. It's an indication that it might be a good time to enter a long on Cardano, which in this situation I'm already going long. I'm waiting for this position to get out of loss, so it's more of just a positive sign for me. And if I feel like it, and if I have enough cash on hand here, I may open a new bot on some of these, starting at this level rather than a higher level, and see if I can't perhaps capture a good entry point that's a little bit lower down. But we'll kind of have to see how things develop, and we'll see how much money I have free in IRL to put into these things. So what was it? ADA, I was running a bot on that was, I know we were kind of, or I was kind of leery about that. Yeah, I had two XRP bots. One of these guys doing okay, still in its grid, probably in loss right now, but it's still in its grid making money, which is more what I'm interested in. And then the other one headed down towards liquidation a little bit, but both of these are pretty far from liquidation, so I'm not terribly concerned about either of those. I think they're doing okay. Oscillator is not real. Well, it's a bit encouraging, but it's not giving this indication that it's at a turning point. And also the Heikin-Ashi kind of looks like it's just come off of a peak and it's starting to come down now. So this may range down a little bit more before it starts to recover. Then again, if Bitcoin decides it wants to pump, then this might just go right back up, and we might be back into the trading range of this first bot again. We'll have to see. So let's see. ADA. What else did I have? Oh yes, the Solana bot is also kind of in a little bit of danger, I think. Kind of similar situation to the ADA. I've had these white crosses coming on and off, and we've had repeated bullish signals, but just no movement here. Bitcoin kind of keeps wheedling down towards 90,000, and so it's going to be kind of hard for a lot of these other currencies to really gain much ground while Bitcoin is kind of waning in strength. Bitcoin is what people tend to watch in the market, and it's still, Bitcoin is still king in crypto, for better or worse. So that's just sort of, it is what it is. But in any event, to me, both, really all of these look like, in particular, the Solana looks like it's accumulating to me. It's had its dip, it went down pretty far, and now if you look at it, it's setting high lows, and it's kind of coming to zoom in a little bit. Yeah, I mean, you could easily argue, I think, that that we've hit a bottom somewhere around here, and that now we're forming whoa, if I can make a diagram at all, not be too silly about it, that we're forming a wedge, descending, ascending. Well, given that we just dumped my guess would be that we may be forming a wedge, and if it breaks out of this, it will probably break to the upside because we've been in bear mode for a little while. Um, so there's a speculative argument, but you could kind of speculate that it's doing something like that if you want to. Uh, this is all sort of a matter of opinion, though, as with everything else. And gosh, I wonder what that looks like on the hourly. Let's see. I wish I could do something to get rid of the sound of me touching my touch screen here, but for now, I guess we'll just have to kind of bear with it. Um, I am just making these videos at home. I'm not a professional by any stretch of the imagination. Uh, I'm just kind of a derpy American guy who likes cryptocurrency and science and other things. All right. Well, music too. But, okay. So I could possibly extend this out to be kind of more like this on the hourly. And so you could kind of argue that there's a wedge happening here and that it may break to the upside or the downside. Sometimes, I'm telling you, sometimes with these wedges, um, occasionally what will happen is they will break to the upside, and people will call things market manipulation. I don't know if that's really the word for it or not, but occasionally these things will kind of um, uh, will kind of break to the upside and then go and crash down and then go up following that. Because sometimes I'm telling you, it'll get out of here, it'll get out of the wedge, people will get real excited, everybody will go long, and then they go boom. It'll just kind of everything will kind of slump temporarily, and this will create um, some market liquidity, or where somebody will be taking advantage of it, possibly an institution or a whale or somebody. I don't understand some of these dynamics of the market, but just from my observation and from things that I've sort of heard from people, it does seem like they have a tendency to do the classical patterns in crypto, but then the market will kind of swing back the other way, and a whole bunch of people will get squeezed out. Higher leverage traders will get squeezed out. A bunch of people will have gone long here, and they'll get stop loss or liquidated out on isolated positions. And then, following all of that, then the market will rise, and everybody will go, "Oh gosh, if only I hadn't hit stop loss, then I would have done great." Or if only I hadn't gotten liquidated, then I would have done great. Well, they were assuming that because this classical pattern breakout had happened, that it's gonna pump surely. But often it kind of, well, okay, or sometimes there's kind of one last little ounce of consolidation, one last little ounce of pain that has to happen before the asset moves up in value. And so it's good to be a little bit cautious when you see a breakout, and kind of tend to favor lower leverages, or at the very least, if you're going to use higher leverages, have a lot of margin in your account, like an awful lot of margin to secure you against liquidation in the event that something like this does happen. Because being able to hold through situations like this where it is breaking out, you do have your breakouts here, but being able to hold through an unexpected dip can really make the difference between a winning trade and a losing trade. At least that's just an observation that it's an observation that I make sometimes. And you can tell me I'm wrong, maybe I am, but that's just sort of my opinion on it right now. And I may later change that opinion and decide that that was all just a funny figment of my imagination, but I strongly suspect that that's I don't know. Using lower leverage or having a lot of margin in your account so that your liquidation values are really, really far away from the mark price is generally good advice, regardless of what type of trading you're doing or what you think about what I've just said, honestly. So I don't think that any of that advice is really going to steer you wrong. But that's just a musing, a random thought that I have about cryptocurrency trading. I'm not sure if that's as valid a thing in Forex, where you kind of have government backed currencies, um, and probably also much greater market caps where it's kind of harder for whales to influence the market as much. Whereas with some of these smaller cap cryptocurrencies, like if you have quite a lot of money, if you're a billionaire, you can really change the price action just on a whim of some of these smaller cap coins if you want to. It's really a very wacky area with a lot of dynamic action, and it's really where a lot of interesting things are happening in finance these days, in my opinion. But okay, so Solana, I think is going to break out pretty soon. Its exponential moving average is starting to get closer to the price action, as the price action is also setting higher lows, kind of setting lower highs too, sort of, kind of, indicating it might be forming a wedge pattern. And so we can kind of, oh shoot, I should have moved that. I had that set up on the hourly. Um, well, I'm bummed that this bot isn't currently trading and it's just kind of sitting, hanging out in loss. I think that it probably will be okay. Let's see. Who else were we talking about? Let's see. I believe I mentioned XRP. XRP might have a little bit further down to go. Kind of like I don't know that I would necessarily be super into shorting XRP right now, because while the Heikinashi kind of suggests and the price action suggests, um, you might be able to short a little bit if you wanted to go in for like a really high leverage short. But gosh, I mean, the oscillators are starting to look like it's going to pump. A bunch of these other currencies are ranging low, and I think that Bitcoin is getting closer to that $90,000 level, which I think is a psychological level. I think that a lot of people are going long probably right now. A lot of people are buying because they feel like 90,000 is a cheap a cheap price for Bitcoin. Of course, remember we were not that long ago. We were at 50, 60, 70,000, and people were, and I was going, oh yeah, 70,000 is expensive for Bitcoin because it was there for a little while, um, but now 90,000 I think is kind of going to be cheap for Bitcoin, and 110 roughly is going to be expensive for Bitcoin for a little while here. Um, that's really that candle really is interesting there. Anyway, so what else could we talk about? Pepe is just doing Pepe things. Um, I Pepe is getting to be, I think, a blue chip cryptocurrency now is a pretty safe place to put your money in it. I'm telling you, there have been other times when I'm watching the market and let's see, look at this nice clean oscillator down here. And this approaching the EMA after a really clean dip and then just returning back up and not ranging as far down as Solana did. I mean, there have been times when the rest of the market will just be in chaos and things will be terrible, and Pepe will just be off doing Pepe things, and it'll be totally fine. And it's really um, this. I'm in Pepe and spot, and I think that it's a good long term. I really do think it's a good coin to be holding. Of course, I could always be wrong. Ultimately, it's what the market decides, not what I think. Ethereum. Oh no, I haven't started a bot on Ethereum, but it also I think maybe preparing to pump. Oh, Doge, yeah. I have a couple of things going on Doge. So we could talk about Dogecoin. This is another one I think is looking really good. Notice that kind of like Pepe, it took a bath on this day, like a lot of other coins did, but popped right back up and has held that level reasonably well. Um, my bots are doing totally fine with this one. They're both within their grid, and this guy, like, it could go down and get liquidated because it's down to zero point 0.8, but that hasn't happened yet. Um, and I'm not seeing any huge likely indicators that it's going to go down that far. Now, you never really know. Something could happen in the news. We could have a new war start up. Could have a new famine or a new natural disaster or something. There are all kinds of things that could influence the market. But barring that sort of thing happening, I suspect that this will probably be okay. Um, and it's let's see. Uh, yeah. And its liquidation price is still right at around 28, so it hasn't moved a whole lot, but that's okay. I think that, and I'm referring to the 20 times leveraged one, which has its liquidation value at around 28 right here. Um, and both of these grids, I think, go down to 22. I have had to, I am using, again, these chart things, I am using it in a bit of an unorthodox way. I've got long positions here, and most of the time when I use these, the green area is the area in which I'm grid trading, and then the red area is the area below the grid, and the bottom of the red area is liquidation for the bot. Now, in some cases, as with my higher leverage Dogecoin bot here, the liquidation value is inside the grid, so I kind of have to use these a little bit differently. So in terms of the higher leveraged Doge bot I have running, I'm using the entry line, this gray line, as its liquidation value, and then the grid extends um, down to here to 22 cents per Dogecoin, and both bots, the grid extends down to 22 cents. When it comes to my projects going on this coin, anyway, going up to $1 per Dogecoin, and yeah. Who else? Do we have anybody else that would be interesting to talk about? Rats might be on the move. We'll have to kind of see. Then again, there's always somebody moving in crypto. There's always a lot going on in this sphere. Let's see. So the other bot that I had going, we could possibly talk about is BNB. This one's a pretty, as much as I lavish attention onto some of these other coins, BNB is a big cap blue chip coin, and it had a dip just like everybody else, but it's held up rather well following the dip. Um, and so, I mean, I don't I don't anticipate any issues with this one. Um, yeah, it's doing fine. Maybe not as exciting as some of these other coins in terms of like short-term trading opportunities, but if you're doing grid trading as I am, and what you like is prices that move gradually, so you can establish kind of a range for where they're going to be. Um, the fact that this one isn't quite as all over the place um, potentially makes me think that this might be a good coin for me to open a higher leveraged grid bot on that would be a little more active, that would be producing a little bit more from its grid arbitrage, but would have a slightly more risky liquidation value. But if the coin itself is not as prone to taking a bath as some coins are, then you can kind of tolerate having having a slightly closer liquidation value without it being just a terrible idea. Because again, with these bots, in particular with the ones that have higher leverage, the ones with higher leverage typically start with liquidation values that are pretty close to the price action. But if you can keep them going and keep them, or not that you or I can do anything about it really, but if they happen um, to not hit liquidation and run for a little while, that liquidation value will move down as the bot makes money. And bots that trade with higher leverage will generate more money relative to the amount of margin that you start them with than bots with lower leverage. As most of mine are. Most of mine are relatively low leverage bots, so that they start out with a relatively low liquidation or relatively far away liquidation value compared to the starting point. Just because it's much easier to predict whether or not coin's going to drop. This would be a pretty significant drop in price for BNB for this to actually hit liquidation. So I don't have to rely on my TA quite so much to have the bot just in profit immediately for a little while. I can be a little bit more relaxed when starting these bots if I use lower leverage, and it's you can kind of stress out, not stress quite so much in terms of putting larger amounts of money into them. But 3 times or 5 times leverage on one of these things is still going to increase the amount of money you're trading with considerably compared to trading in spot. And so I do still think that it's a pretty good prospect. You just still you do kind of still need to be wary of the fact that these do have liquidation values, and if something really serious happens and Bitcoin really gets into trouble, it might, for example, return down to some of these support levels around $70,000 or $80,000. That well could cause the bots that I have going to get into serious risk of liquidation, and so there is something to be said in particular for like waiting and trying to trying to get these things started when, say, for example, like now, when if you think that Bitcoin has reached a relatively low area, because the rest of the market tends to kind of follow Bitcoin, like now or sometime in the next couple of days might be a good time to start some more of these long bots, and I might do that myself. We'll kind of see um, what I would like to do. Uh, so anyway, yeah, that's I think would be probably a long enough video for tonight. Um, Perhaps we'll think of some other interesting thing to talk about next time. So this is Daniel making a video, and I think we might call this channel the Trade Game channel, since that's what my Telegram channel is named. Uh, God be with you. Please be good to each other, and I'll talk to you later.